Hey there, it's good to see you. Welcome back to Advent Daily, where we examine St. Alphonsus' daily sermons for Advent. Today he gives us 3 reasons for mental prayer. Number 1, in order that we may have light on the journey towards eternity. St. Alphonsus writes, "The eternal truths are spiritual things which are not seen with the eyes of the body, but only in the mind by consideration. He that does not meditate does not see them. Therefore, he walks with difficulty on the way of salvation. And further, he who does not meditate does not know his defects, and therefore, says St. Bernard, does not detest them." One of his points is that he that does not meditate walks with difficulty on the way of salvation. And that's what I want to focus on. A number of years ago, prior to marriage, I used to get together with my brothers. I'm the oldest of 7. There's 5 Yazinski boys, and we used to go on these mountain bike trips to the Canadian Rockies. And on this one particular excursion, one of my brothers read about this cave that we could hike up into, and we thought it might be a nice idea to try and find this cave. Well, it required a couple things to find this cave. Number 1, it took a long bike ride on these trails in the mountains. So we all had these mountain bikes. We went on the trails, and then midway on this trail, we got off our bikes, hid them in the trees, and then we bushwhacked through the trees until we broke through the tree line, and then we're on this kind of scramble of rocks, and we hiked up this face of this mountain, scrambling up to this rock face that was just vertical. And there, after climbing up that scramble at that rock face, was this huge entrance to this cave. So we scrambled up into the entrance of this cave. When we turned around and you could look out upon the valley from whence we just came, it was just spectacular. And I'd never been in a cave before in the mountains. It was a huge entrance. But here's the thing, when you're standing at the entrance of the cave, you just can't stay at the entrance of the cave. There's something within you that says, I wonder what's back there. So one of my brothers had the foresight, and he brought along some headlamps and put them on, and we started wandering back into the cave, and we went for a number of minutes. And the thing is, as the deeper you get into the cave, the further away from the entrance, and you lose sunlight eventually. And we got to the point where the ceiling was coming down upon us. It was getting lower, and the walls were getting a little bit narrower. And we got to a point where we couldn't go any farther. And it wasn't because of rocks, but what was before us was this, if I remember correctly, it was just ice. And it was cold in there. It was like the water somehow had frozen in there, and it was a big wall of ice. We couldn't get any farther. And then one of my brothers, I don't remember which one, had this idea. Let's turn off the headlamps. So we all turned off the headlamps, and it was absolutely dark. There was not a single ray. There was nothing. Like, you could put your hand in front of your eyes and you could see nothing. It was the darkest dark I had ever experienced. And if I think back to that experience, I don't know if there was a way that we could have found our way out of that cave without the headlamps. The lights showed us the way out. And it would have been with great difficulty to find our way back to the entrance of the cave. I don't know if it was possible. And see, that's the point with our salvation. Without meditation, we are without light. And we walk with the difficulty on the way of salvation. See, the way of salvation, there is only one way. And that is through Jesus Christ, and living according to what he has revealed necessary for our salvation. In order for those truths to seep into our heart, to show us the way of salvation and actually live that out, we got to pray. More specifically, St. Alphonsus is emphasizing mental prayer. And if I think back being in that cave, there was only one way out. There wasn't many ways out. There was only one way out. And there was many dangers along that path that would have only been recognized with the light. And isn't that like salvation? It's a narrow path, Jesus calls it. Broad and wide is the path to destruction, and many are those who follow it. But narrow and difficult is that path that leads to salvation, and there are few who find it. Who finds that path? St. Alphonsus today is emphasizing the necessity of mental prayer so that our minds are illuminated with the truths necessary to live and how to apply them, and then also to be able to recognize our defects. That's what light does. It shows us the way. St. Alphonsus writes, in meditation, God speaks to us and makes us know what we are to avoid and what we are to do. St. Bernard says that meditation regulates our affections, directs our actions, and corrects our defects. So you're getting the sense now that mental prayer is pretty important. Now, if you're sitting there thinking, I don't know what mental prayer is, that's okay. I have a whole video linked at the end of this video specifically on St. Alphonsus's method of mental prayer. I would even suggest that this video is useless unless you also refer to that video, because watching a video about mental prayer can give the impression that we're praying in using mental prayer. And it's not the case. You actually have to do it. And in order to pray that way, you have to know how. And so at the end of this video, there'll be St. Alphonsus's steps for mental prayer. Reason number 2 for mental prayer. Without mental prayer, we have no strength to resist temptation and practice virtue. St. Teresa used to say that when a man leaves off mental prayer, the devil has no need of carrying him to hell, for he throws himself into it of his own accord. And the reason is that without mental prayer, there is no prayer. God is most willing to give us his graces, but St. Gregory says that before giving them, he desires to be asked, and as it were, compelled to give them through our prayers. It was said by a servant of God that mental prayer and mortal sin cannot exist together. Powerful encouragement regarding mental prayer. Now here's something to consider regarding this. Do you struggle in a habitual way with a mortal sin? If your answer is yes, then ask yourself the other question. Do you have mental prayer as part of your spiritual life? And if the answer is no, then start praying that way. And again, if you don't know how to pray in using mental prayer, again, linked at the end of the video is St. Alphonsus's method. Third reason for mental prayer. It is the blessed furnace in which souls are inflamed with divine love. St. Alphonsus writes, when the soul sits solitary, that is, remains alone in meditation, to consider how worthy God is of love, and how great is the love he bears to it, it will then relish the sweetness of God and fill its mind with holy thoughts. There it will detach itself from earthly affections. There it will conceive great desires to become holy, and finally resolve to give itself wholly to God. Have you noticed that the more you think about a thing, the more you want it? And the more you think about a thing and the more you want it, the more likely that you're going to go out and try and pursue it and get it? And do you know who knows this really the best? It's advertisers, marketing companies. They want your attention. And they want your attention for a reason. It's not just so that they can get puffed up with pride and look, they're looking at us. No, they want your money. And they have something to sell you. And the way that they sell you something is by getting your attention so that you start thinking about that thing. And then the more that you think about it, the more likely you'll act upon it. Because as our thoughts go, our life is sure to follow. And so is our money in this case. So the more that you think about a thing, the more that you want it, the more likely you're going to go out and pursue it. You know, we just experienced all of this, the Black Friday sales, I think they call it, after American Thanksgiving. Well, God has, I think, wired us to desire what we contemplate. Because what we're supposed to contemplate is Him and eternal truths and His beauty and His goodness. And the more that we contemplate and use our imagination and think about Him, which is prayer, by the way, the more that we want Him, the more that we desire Him, the more that we will chase Him and seek Him. And what does Jesus say about seeking? Those who seek will find. The question is, what are you seeking? You can tell what you're seeking by what you are thinking. So in meditation, we place our thoughts and our minds upon good and holy things. And then as we do so, we start seeking those things. How necessary mental prayer is on the way of salvation. So again, if you don't know how to pray this way, you don't know how to meditate, you don't know about mental prayer and the steps, linked here at the end of this video is Saint Alphonsus's method of mental prayer. I highly encourage you to watch it. Thanks for watching.